Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the book of Titus, Paul's letter to Titus. We're going to finish chapter 1 today. We finished up our conversation about the qualifications of elders last time, and I forgot to mention one thing because I got on my soapbox and got behind my pulpit and did a little preaching. Sorry about that. But anyway, he talks about an elder being someone who is a lover of good, which is a portmanteau word that gets translated as several words. And I mentioned earlier on that the word love, agape love, is not mentioned in the letter. What I didn't say, and what we will notice as we come to these examples, is the word phileo is. And so this is a phileo word. Um, um, a lover of goodness. So he uses it 4 times. Even uses it for God and God loving later on. And we'll see that when we get to it. But an elder has to be a lover of good. This is not agape. This is phileo, love, philia love, which is family love. It very much is family love, covenant love. It's not sacrificial love. It's covenant love. It's the family love. And it's appropriate that it would be used in this context because he really is talking about building up the family as the family. We often dismiss philia as friendship or lesser form of love. It's just different. Um, Philia describes what I owe my family because we are family, and it is in the Greek authors. I mean, it just is. And it is, in the Greek mind, the most important concept of love. Agape was not used very often in Greek literature. It was the translators of the Bible from Hebrew into Greek, those rabbis, that really gave agape the meaning that we know it to have in the New Testament. They used philia, and that's what Paul uses here in Titus, the word philia, which is in Greek culture, the strongest word you can use. It means the family covenant, what you owe the family as the family, and what your responsibility to the family is because it is your family. Okay, let's read verses 10 through 16. There are many rebellious men, empty talkers and deceivers, especially those of the circumcision, who must be silenced because they are upsetting whole families, teaching things they should not teach for the sake of sordid gain. One of themselves, a prophet of their own, said, Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, lazy gluttons. This testimony is true. For this cause reprove them severely, that they may be sound in the faith, not paying attention to Jewish myths and commandments of men who turn away from the truth. To the pure all things are pure, but to those who are defiled and unbelieving nothing is pure. But to their mind and their conscience, because both their mind, and their conscience are defiled. They profess to know God, but by their deeds they deny him, being detestable and disobedient and worthless for any good deed. Well, there's a lot here too, but this is pretty straightforward. We get the picture that Titus is dealing with an area in which the Cretan Christians, these Cretans, are still heavily influenced by their Gentile culture and their Gentile past, but they're also being swayed by the Judaizing teachers that were saying to be a Christian, you also have to be an observant Jew, observant of the laws of Moses. Paul has been dealing with these false teachers his whole ministry. In refusing to circumcise Titus himself, he was sending a message that he was not going to capitulate to those teachers. In Galatians, which mentions Titus for the first time, he talks about withstanding Peter himself to the face because Peter was being bullied by these teachers. And so this is happening there too. So he talks about the circumcision, and later on he talks about Jewish myths. It's such a a genius word that he uses because the Jews always ridiculed the Greeks for their myths, In fact, the Stoic philosophers used the word myth to describe, their religious stories as fanciful, as fairy tales, sometimes dystopian ones, but as childish and made up, nonetheless. It's a word that Paul will use multiple times in the pastorals. He uses it in 1 Timothy 1 4 and 4 7, and in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 4, and then here. He uses it 4 times, but all those times are here in the pastoral epistles to describe the false teaching that some Christians are falling prey to. And I sympathize. um, I mean, it seems every 2 or 3 years something comes down the pike, and sometimes it's keeping the law of Moses. I don't know how many times I've said to Christians who ought to know better, "Have you read the book of Galatians? No, we don't have to keep the law of Moses. Why are you looking at these sites on the internet about this? Maybe it's Dan Brown, you know? maybe it's maybe maybe it's something like that." But there's always something that seems to be leading otherwise mature Christians astray. And a minister and an eldership we're never through having to address these viruses that Satan sends our way. And that's what he's writing to them about. This is one of the reasons we need elders. For there are many rebellious men, empty talkers, deceivers, blowhards, people who run their yaps when they don't know what they're talking about. That's how he begins First Timothy. I want you to tell the Ephesian men to stop doing this. Stop running down rabbit holes. Stop running their yaps about things they don't know about. And he's talking to Titus about these things here as well. Eh, We get a little uneasy with the fact that he quotes what seems to be Epimenides. A lot of commentators will say this quote about the Cretans, one of their own, is quoting Epimenides, who was himself from the island of Crete. But we don't have any of this in the original. We only have quotes of Epimenides that seem to say these things. So he might be quoting another author or an author who has, you know, referred to, but that's neither here nor there. But there's name calling here. Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, and lazy gluttons. Paul didn't say that. One of their own said that. But then he says this testimony is true. These people have been a part of a culture for centuries and centuries that even Gentiles recognize to be profligate. And it's going to take your own hard work and sometimes tough love to snap them out of what's been imprinted on them since their youth. I hope that we're not shocked that he says this. This is just one mature man talking to another fully grown up human being saying, this is what the work's going to require. And understanding that his message will be heeded. I like how he ends it. The pure, all things are pure, but to those who are defiled and unbelieving, nothing is pure. That is absolutely the case, and any of us who've lived long enough know that's the case. That when you have a defiled mind and a defiled conscience, you cannot see goodness, you cannot see light where it does exist. And then he could almost say, "By their fruits you shall know them." He's reminding us of a message Jesus taught all the way back to the Sermon on the Mount that he will continue to teach, and all the other New Testament writers will continue to teach, that we have to hear and do, and that you can tell who a person is by the way they act and what they do. Okay, we'll pick up with chapter 2 next time. Thank you for joining me. 10 more good minutes with the Word. See you next time.